There is something I must tell you before we go any further. You have been praying wrong, not occasionally, not sometimes, but every single time you have sat in your quiet room, closed your eyes, and pleaded for the thing you most desperately need. You have been doing it wrong. And the terrible irony is this: the more sincerely you prayed, the more powerfully you kept the answer away. I know that is a hard thing to hear, but I would rather tell you the truth tonight than leave you to spend another year kneeling in the wrong direction. I want to tell you about a woman whose story I have witnessed repeated in one form or another in the lives of dozens who have come to my lectures. A woman who prayed every morning and every night, faithfully and desperately, yet got absolutely nothing until the night she stopped asking, and everything came. Stay with me, because what she discovered is not complicated, but it will require you to unlearn something you have believed your entire life. She was a widow, silver-haired and in her late 60s, running a boarding house on the west side of Manhattan. It was a 3-story brownstone she had inherited from a late husband. And for over a decade, she had rented the upper rooms to working men and women who needed a clean, quiet place to sleep. It was a modest life, but it was hers. Then, slowly, the rooms began to empty. One tenant moved away, then another. And as months passed, the bills did not. By the time she came to one of my Tuesday evening lectures, she had been carrying that weight for nearly 2 years. She waited until the others had gone, and then she came to me, small, careful, holding her handbag with both hands the way people do when they are carrying something heavier than leather and brass. "Mr. Goddard," she said, "I have been praying for months, every morning, every night, but nothing changes. The rooms sit empty. The bills keep coming. And I am beginning to wonder if God is even listening." I looked at her for a long moment and said, "Tell me, when you pray, what exactly do you do?" She told me that every morning she would sit at the edge of her bed, close her eyes, and whisper, "Please, Lord, send me tenants. Please fill my rooms. I need help, please." Then she would walk downstairs, open the front door, look up and down the empty street, and feel the exact same hollow weight she had felt every morning before. I listened to every word, and then I told her the truth. "You have been praying perfectly," I said, "for the problem." She blinked and asked my pardon, so I explained it to her clearly. Every time you say, "Please send me tenants," you are confessing that you do not have them. You are praying from the feeling of lack, and your human imagination, which is God in you, does not hear your words. It reads your state. It creates faithfully and without judgment whatever you most deeply feel to be true. This is the great misunderstanding, and this is why good people suffer for years while praying without ceasing. They come to God as a beggar at a door, rattling a cup, asking to be given what they do not have. And in that very act of asking, they press their consciousness deeper and deeper into the state of not having. You cannot pray from emptiness and receive fullness, because the prayer must begin inside the answer. I looked at her directly. "So tell me, which state have you been living in? The woman whose house is full, or the woman who is afraid?" She was quiet for a long time, and then very softly she admitted, "The second one. It has been the second one for a very long time." I asked her to stay after the others had gone, and we sat in 2 chairs near the window with the city quiet outside. I told her I was going to give her one instruction, just one. "Tonight," I said, "before you sleep, I do not want you to ask for anything. I want you to remember something instead." When she asked what she should remember, I told her to remember a night that has not happened yet, as though it already has. She looked at me carefully. So I continued to build a scene for her. Your house is full, every room is taken, and every key has been given out. Now tell me, what do you hear, and what does your body feel? She thought for a moment, and then something in her face softened, the way a face softens when it touches something true. She told me she would hear footsteps on the stairs in the morning, someone making tea in the room above hers, and she would feel lighter, like she could finally breathe again. Good, I said. That is your scene, and that is your prayer. Tonight, as you lie in bed and sleep begins to come, do not petition and do not ask. Simply listen in your imagination for those footsteps and feel the lightness in your chest. Let that be the very last thing your mind touches before you go under. She paused and asked if that was all. And I told her that is everything, and I meant it. Sleep is not merely rest. It is the threshold, the moment when your conscious, doubting, reasoning mind releases its grip, and the deeper self receives impressions with its full, uncritical power. What you carry into that threshold, you plant into the soil from which your waking life grows. This is why so many people wake each morning into the exact same life they went to sleep in. They carry the same fears, the same lack, and the same anxious rehearsal of everything that is wrong directly into the most receptive state their mind ever occupies. She had been planting the wrong seed every single night, not because she was foolish, but because no one had ever told her this. Plant the harvest, I told her, not the wish for rain. She nodded slowly, and I could see in her eyes that something had changed, not yet in her circumstances, but in her understanding. And understanding, my friend, is always where the real change begins. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived. It was short, written in a careful, old-fashioned hand. And I still remember the first line. Something strange is happening, Mr. Goddard, she wrote, and I thought you should know. She had done exactly what I asked. Each night, she lay in bed and listened in her imagination for those footsteps on the stairs, and she felt the likeness. She did not ask. She did not petition. She only remembered a morning that had not yet come. On the fourth day, there was a knock at the door. It was a young schoolteacher who had seen a handwritten card in the window of a nearby drugstore, a card the woman had placed there months earlier and had long since forgotten. The teacher took the largest room on the second floor. Within 10 days, a second tenant arrived, a bookkeeper referred by the teacher's colleague. By the end of the third week, she had only one room remaining. And she told me that on a Sunday morning, sitting at her kitchen table with the sound of two strangers moving quietly in the rooms above her, she felt something she had not felt in 2 years. Not relief, not triumph, but rightness. A deep and settled sense of rightness, as though the world had simply rearranged itself quietly and without drama to match what she had already decided in the privacy of her own imagination was true. That is precisely what had happened. The supply was never the problem, because the world is infinitely abundant and always has been. The problem was the dam, and the dam was this. She had been living every waking hour in the state of a woman whose house was empty. She had rehearsed that state so thoroughly and so faithfully that her human imagination, which is creative power itself, had no choice but to maintain it. When she shifted the state, the circumstances followed because they had no other option. I have told you this story not because her desire was grand, but because it was ordinary. A few empty rooms, a stack of unpaid bills, and a woman who wanted nothing more than the quiet dignity of a life that worked. Because that is most of us, not chasing empires, but just trying to breathe again. And here is what I need you to understand before you leave here tonight and go back to your life. The way you are praying right now, the way you are thinking about the thing you want, the way you feel in your body when you consider your situation, that is not preparation for your life. That is your life. The experience you are living tomorrow is being planted tonight in the state you carry into sleep. You are always out picturing your state. And the question has never been whether, only what. So I ask you directly, what state are you rehearsing? If you lie in your bed tonight and run through the problem, the debt, the silence, the door that will not open, and you tell yourself you are simply facing reality, but you are not being realistic, you are being the most powerful creative force, your own human imagination pointed at the wrong target. Here are the three things I want you to take from this woman's story. The first truth is that your imagination is not a tool for asking. It is the substance from which your experience is literally made. There is no reality outside of consciousness. And the empty rooms were not created by the economy or by bad luck. They were the precise outpicturing of her deepest felt assumption. The second truth is that the feeling is the prayer, not the words, and never the words alone. Words are the surface, but feeling is the depth. When you feel in your body the ease of already having what you desire, that feeling reaches places no spoken petition ever could. The third truth is that you must be willing to live inside the end before the end arrives. Not pretend, not perform, but genuinely occupy for the minutes before sleep the state of a person whose prayer has already been answered. This is not self-deception. It is the most honest thing you can do, because that fulfilled state is the truth you are choosing to make real. That is all that separates a life of perpetual wanting from a life of quiet, steady receiving. Not effort, not worthiness, and not the favor of a God who hears some prayers and ignores others. Only the state in which you choose to dwell. Tonight, before sleep takes you, do not ask, but remember. Remember the morning the footsteps come. Remember the lightness, and let it be the last thing you feel before you go under. That is your prayer, and that has always been enough. Now, let us go into the silence